Welcome everybody to another episode of Woolooware High School's English Rules, where we look at what our students are studying in the class at the moment. Year 9 have started an interesting topic, conformity, that pressure and influence for individuals to follow rules, norms, expectations. And I must say that conformity is an everyday experience where we experience it everywhere, whether it's at school, in the workplace, in our relationships and friendships. It could be in a sporting team. Society will probably tell us that without rules and expectations and laws that individuals have to conform to, there would be chaos. But on the other hand, we can't talk about conformity and society without looking at the individual. And when does the individual draw a line towards what is expected of them in following rules and expectations? So it really is this dynamic relationship between society and the individual, and right in the middle of that is conformity. Okay, so let's look at a poem by Yevgeny Yevtushenko called Picture of Childhood, which captures that dynamic relationship between society and individual and that pressure to conform to expectations. Okay, so Yevgeny Yevtushenko was born and grew up in the Soviet Union, whose authoritarian government demanded and forced conformity. So it's a wonderful poem that captures this, this pull between the individual and society and the pressure to conform. So let's start Yevgeny Yevtushenko's Picture of Childhood. Picture of Childhood by Yevgeny Yevtushenko. Elbowing our way we run. Someone is being beaten up in the market. You wouldn't want to miss it. We pick up speed, racing to the uproar, scooping up water in our felt boots and forgetting to wipe our sniffles. And stood stock still. In our little hearts something tightened when we saw how the ring of sheepskin coats, fur coats, hooded coats was contracting. How he stood up near the green vegetable stall with his head pulled into his shoulder from the hail of jabs, kicks, spitting, slaps in the face. Suddenly someone from the right by the handcart pushed his teeth in. Suddenly someone from the left bashed his forehead with a chunk of ice. Blood appeared, and then they started in earnest. All piled up in a heap, they began to scream together, pounding with sticks, reins, and linchpins out of wheels. In vain he wheezed at their mates. You're my mates, what's the matter? The mob wanted to settle accounts fully. The mob was deaf with rage. The mob grumbled at those who weren't putting the boots in. And they trampled something that looked like a body into the spring snow that was turning into mud. They beat him up with relish, with ingenuity, juicy. I saw how skillfully and precisely one man kept putting the boots in. Boots with greasy flaps on them, right under the belt of the man who was down, smothered in mud and dungy water. Their owner, a guy with an honest enough mug, very proud of his high principles, was saying with each kick, "Don't try your tricks with us," booting you deliberately with the utmost conviction. And, sweat pouring, with a red face, he jovially called out to me, "Come on, youngster, get in it." I can't remember how many there were making a din, beating him up. It may have been 100, it may have been more, but I, just a boy, wept for shame. And if 100 are beating somebody up, howling in a frenzy, even if for a good cause, I will never make 101. Imagine a fight in the school playground. How many students would rush to see what is going on? So the poet's exclamation of second-person narration, "You wouldn't want to miss it," captures this moment, this pressure to be part of something. It clearly shows that we as individuals don't want to be left out. You have to be there. In this case, a brawl in the marketplace. Imagine people talking about the brawl afterwards and you not being there and cannot contribute to this conversation. Of course you'd be left out. And notice how the poet uses first person plural. The use of we and our is inclusive of everyone. All the children are running to see what is happening. and how everyone follows the other. And on the other side of conformity are the brawlers too. They are conforming. And the metaphors of heap and ring, they are a group. And they've all conformed into this group and they're committing the violence together. Also, notice how the brawlers have no names. There is no distinct person to distinguish because they're all part of this group. And this is reinforced by the word mob because they think and act together. There is definitely no individual here. And for the first time in the poem, we get first person narration of I and me, as the poet depicts this as a personal experience. He is distinguishing himself as an individual. He sets himself apart from the mob, and it also foreshadows his non-conformity. Remember this dynamic relation between society and the individual? And when does the individual say no? Well, here it comes with the use of dialogue as the mob's leader directly calls out the poet and calls upon him to conform and join in. Decision time. This is the one time to get excited about punctuation shaping meaning, as the commas around just the boy singles out the poet again. It sort of reminds me of Robert Frost's poem The Road Not Taken, where the persona says, and I took the one less travelled by. But this also singles him out as a child, his innocence as a child. He's not part of this adult world, this violent world. He weeps for shame about what's going on. And he comes to an important decision. And the high modality word of never and the exclamation mark in that final line highlights his promise that he will never ever conform to such violence. Tell you what, that child really has some kind of courage. Now the poem is about conformity, but I suppose it's sort of emphasising that there is an importance of retaining some kind of individuality under the pressures of conformity. I'm sure we've been all in situations where, the pressure is there for us to conform, but yet we choose to say no, even if it's for a good cause. So a great poem by Yevgeny Yevtushenko, Picture of Childhood. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed this program. Look out for a couple of other clips that we'll probably be preparing for Year 9's Conformity unit. See you next time, and thank you again.